Alrighty, so we've already kind of talked about this next topic, the order of operations. In A, what appears twice? -3 appears twice. And we get 9. Whereas in B, since we don't have parentheses, it's like the negative is way over here, and who only appears twice? The 3. It's unfortunate, but this is true. And so we get what in this case? -3. Or so -9, right. Okay? So, in a way, one thing we can say is we consider what's in the parentheses first, don't we? In fact, here's how we can write this. We do parentheses or brackets, any kind of grouping symbols first. Then we do powers and roots second. Multiplication and division third. And what's left at the end? Adding and subtracting. So the kings are up here and the pawns are down here. Okay? So then in C, what do I do first? Exponent, so I get 2, the multiplication weights, and what's 5 to the second power? 25, 5 times 5. And then I multiply, and I get 50. Okay? With that in mind, why don't you try example 2, A and B, and see what you come up with. There's one more grouping symbol that I didn't mention, and that's the bar. This bar automatically groups above and below. Above and below. Okay? Especially in B, you'll say, oh, you're supposed to divide before you subtract and add? No, because that bar produces parentheses that we don't initially write. With that in mind, now do examples 2A and B. So for 2A, what do you have on top? -12 on the bottom, -3. When you divide a negative by a negative, what do you get? Positive what? 4. Okay. In B, what do we have on top? -4 on the bottom, 2. What do I get when I divide a negative by a positive? 4 divided by 2, 2. Okay, let me do example 3A. 60 waits its turn. 30 waits its turn because I'm supposed to do the exponent first, right? And what's -2 times -2 times -2? -8. Now, technically speaking, if we have addition and addition, one is not better than the other, so we can't have a rule, we go left to right. But we also know, though, right, that if we're adding, order is not important anyway. But left to right, what's 60 and 30? 90. Is my answer going to be bigger than 90 or smaller than 90? What's my final answer? 82. You do B. Be careful. Okay, let me start. Let's do it this way. What do I get from this first circle? -16 is correct. What do I get from the second circle? 9. And what do I get from this third circle? 1. We're multiplying 1 times 1 times 1. Okay? Now, in between these numbers, or in between these groups, we have what? Addition and subtraction. Let's take care of the subtraction. Subtraction becomes what? Adding the opposite. So then, let's go left to right. What is negative 16 plus 9? Negative 7, good. What's negative 7 and negative 1? Negative 8. In 4a, let me do that. I'm thinking I'm going to do this first and leave everything else alone. So 3 times, what is 4 subtract 7? Okay. And then I'm going to copy everything else down. I'll do one thing at a time. If you want to combine steps, you're on your own. Next, after doing the parentheses, I'm thinking I'm going to do this multiplication. And what do I get? Negative 9. And then I'm going to bring everything else down. So I did the parentheses, then I did the multiplication. Now I have left addition and subtraction, the last operations on the list, right? But to be careful about subtraction, we rewrite it as what? Adding the opposite. Again, if you don't need to do that and you're getting the right answer, fine. But if you need this extra step, great also. So what is negative 9 plus a negative 2? Negative 11. And it's negative 11, and I keep going negative 5 more. Where am I? Negative 16. Now, I'm going to say something that's very obvious, but I think is very critical. What you see is what you'll do. Right? And so my job in part is to help you see this correctly. It's almost like if I wish I can give you a pair of math glasses, it really would be so much better, wouldn't it? Then you'd see it right. So, you have to see 3 groups. Group 1, Group 2, and Group 3. Right? And so what is this? Negative 3, hold that thought. What is this? 5. What is negative 3 times 5? The second group is just negative 2. And what is the last group? 16. What did I leave out? The operations. What's the first operation? Subtraction. And the second operation? Addition. But you see how those operations separated my 3 groups? I can do them later because addition and subtraction are done last. Okay, now subtraction always messes us up, so I tell you to do what with subtraction? Add the opposite. Now with all addition, do I have to go from left to right? No. Let's do these 2 first. What do I get? 18. Notice how working vertically helps me to organize my work. I can see what I've done, and I can see what still remains if I work up and down. Is my answer going to be positive or negative? Positive what? 3. In example 5 especially, what you see is what you'll do. What I suggest you do is this first. Because we have a bunch of parentheses and such, right? And we have to work from the inside out. Do you see that what I've circled is the innermost part of the problem? We have to be able to see that, right? And what is that? 5. Then I'm going to keep the 5 in parentheses, write the 2 outside of it, and all I'm going to do is copy everything else around it. What do I do next? I work what's inside the brackets, right? And inside the brackets I have a choice. Addition or? What's the right choice? Multiplication. 2 times 5 is 10. Again, not going to rush it. I'm going to do that one calculation and copy everything else around it. Next I do what? Inside the brackets, and I have negative 3 what? Plus 10, and what is that? 7. So I'll write the 7. I'll keep the brackets around it so I don't lose sight of the next step. What operations do you see left? Multiplication and subtraction. Which do I do first now? Multiplication, and what do I get? Negative 14. I'll do that one thing and copy everything else. And then subtraction becomes adding the opposite. And so is my answer positive or negative? Negative what? 19. Okay? We have to see this problem correctly. The doing part isn't so bad. I mean, you have numbers. You kind of know what to do with the numbers, but you have to do them with the right numbers. Right? Okay. Now, in A, what does x squared mean? Something to the second power. What does negative x squared mean? Negative something squared. Right? Try both of these and see what you end up with. So what I did in example 6 is, whenever I saw a variable, I made a set of parentheses to hold the number that the variable represents. I highly suggest you do that. Okay? Who goes inside the parentheses in A? Negative 11. And what does squared mean? I write negative 11 what? Twice. What's a negative times a negative? What's 11 times 11? Okay? In B, who is x? Negative 11. Careful. I don't want you to say 2 negatives make a positive, do I?
No.
Because does the negative on the outside ever see the negative on the inside? No, because I have to do the exponent first. So who do I write twice? Negative 11. And isn't it like that negative here is like on the outside waiting its turn? And so then inside the brackets that I introduced, what is a negative times a negative? Positive. 11 times 11. But the negative is still waiting, isn't it? And my answer now is going to be negative 121. So, huge suggestion. Have open parentheses for your variable before you put the number in. With that in mind, try examples 7 and 8.